Welcome in to another edition of the Bleav in Mavs podcast. As always, I am your host, Wyatt Huskins, alongside Alex Tassopoulos. And Alex, it's a downer Thursday for us here on the Bleav in Mavs podcast, as not only do the Mavs fall to the Cavs, but Maxi Kleber sustained a torn hamstring in practice on Tuesday. Alex, let's start there. What impact is this going to have on the Mavericks? And who needs to step up down the stretch in order to maintain at least a 500 record, if not get back to their winning waves?
I mean, it has a tremendous impact, obviously, specifically defensively. If you look at Maxi's stats, as most people would when they're just like, "Oh, how's that guy playing this year?" Right? He's averaging under 7 points per game. He's under 5 rebounds a game, but what he does defensively as really the only competent defender who has some switchability on our team, like as far as front court guys go. I mean, I know how you feel about JaVale, and you think he shouldn't be in the NBA.
It's
Which,
time, JaVale.
yeah, that's a whole nother can of worms. But I agree that Maxi is he was our best rim protector. He always fared pretty well off of a switch when he had to guard a smaller guy, a guard or a forward who could dribble. He's a guy that put his body all the way out there for the team, just like
Every
Dwight
night.
Powell does every single night. His energy, his intensity, his ability to pick and pop with Luka obviously was something that we really appreciated. I'm grateful that the Mavs signed him in this offseason and gave him that 3-year, 33 mil, very well deserved. And obviously, like when you evaluate it from like a roster standpoint, it's like, oh, it's a bummer to have a guy who could possibly be out the rest of the season, hopefully not any longer than that. And to know that, that's costing you 10 mil, but at the same time, like it was well deserved by Maxi. He was instrumental in that run, that Western Conference run, to get to the Western Conference Finals against Golden State Warriors. But yeah, man, it's a bummer, and I think it's not necessarily something that anyone on the roster currently can kind of pick up the slack that will now be there with Maxi out. And it's either a decision that Nico and Mark are going to have to make, and Jason, obviously, do you go and get a guy who can replace Maxi's minutes, or do you kind of cut your losses here and you play with the guys that you have and you see what they can do? You give JaVale more minutes, I guess. You give Dwight more minutes. You run some small ball lineups and put, I don't know, like we put Christian at the 5 and Dorian runs a lot of 4. Like, is this just going to mean that Dorian's going to have to play almost 40 minutes a night? I don't know, but they have some decisions to make. That's for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anybody that we can go and get who's available, who can fill those minutes and fill that role that Maxi does, just as a big guy who can switch as well as he does. And out of this 4 and 5 spot, instead of just a 5, that's a pretty good rim protector. Like, there are guys, I mean, Nerlens Noel can give you some of what Maxi gives you, right? We discussed that on the last podcast.
Yeah.
But he's not going to be able to switch like Maxi is. He's not going to be able to play the 4. He's going to be exclusively playing the 5. And he's best suited to probably only give you 10 to 15 minutes in a game. I don't really know where the Mavs go from here on this injury front. I think the best solution in-house would be for Doe to just step up and play 40 minutes at the 4, maybe. I mean, that's tough to ask a guy.
I mean, we might have to go small and like ask Luka to guard the 4 sometimes, honestly.
Oh, I imagine that will happen. I imagine that kid will have to be creative in order to replace these minutes from Maxi Kleber. You saw an uncreative solution, I think, last night, trying to replace Maxi's minutes, and it didn't work out. Of course, this is a fantastic Cavs team. That was the first time I got to watch them, and they are everything that I thought they were and more, especially with Donovan Mitchell playing lights out, playing revenge basketball, coming out and wanting to punch the Mavericks in the mouth after knocking him out of the playoffs and forcing him to change teams in the offseason.
Yeah.
But, Doe's got to step up. I mean, last night, kind of to transition a little bit, keep the discussion on Maxi going, plus move into this Cavs loss last night. Doe didn't come out with the energy that he normally does, and you saw that reflected in the lineup change in the second half. Doe's going to have to step up and be the elite player, obviously not elite, right, but elite for his skill set, that 3-and-D, guard the best player on the floor, night in and night out. He's going to have to step up and be the best version of himself every single night from here on out while Maxi's out, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I do think, to talk about that Cavs game, I mean, obviously this is a team they're 18-11. It's a big win for them because they had not been playing well on the road. I think they're 6-9 now on the road, or something about definitely under 500. A tremendous record at home for them. They obviously have the tandem duo of Garland and Mitchell, and Mitchell shot otherworldly in this game. He was locked in from the jump. Again, like you said, it's a revenge game for him. I thought there were some bright moments though in this game. I wasn't demoralized by this loss. I thought we played pretty poorly, especially offensively. We shot pretty poorly. On the Dorian note, I mean, Harp was saying it on the broadcast. He was just so indecisive.
Yeah.
Got to make a decision. And I thought that Reggie, on the other side,
Reggie's back, by the way.
Reggie
officially
is
back.
He is shooting well, and he is when he has an open look, he is firing away. He was not shy from letting it fly last night, and that's how he has to be. And obviously, that the shot has to fall, of course. But again, as we've talked about many a times, like majority of Doe's shots, majority of Reggie's shots are wide open, so they should fall. Right? Yes. You're an NBA basketball player. That's what you're in the game to do, is shoot and make threes. You'll go through stints where you're cold, and that's the way it goes. And obviously Reggie, this is a consistent thing for him to start the season off slowly and then get into his rhythm. And his percentage is slowly climbing, and we're back into the 30s. We're heading in the right direction for him. So I'm confident that he's going to get more minutes with that, even when Josh comes back, and hopefully that's not something that lingers and lasts a long time, because we need him out there. Frank's
Absolutely
given us valuable minutes, but in Tim McMahon's article, where he was just relaying like where the circumstances of the Mavs are now with Maxi Kleber's injury, he called Josh Green a reserve, and I completely disagree. He can't be a reserve for us.
He can't.
He has to.
I think he has to start.
He either has to start, like you want,
or play starters minutes
for sure. Somewhere between 25 and 32 minutes a game, I think, at the minimum.
Yeah.
He needs to be out there that much. We need him. We need his 3-point shooting. We need his versatility offensively to run up and down the court. It's just a tough thing, man, when you're asking Tim and Reggie and Doe to hit 3-pointers at a 40% or higher rate, or a 37% or higher rate. And then in a game like this where they shoot 34% collectively from three, but not even that, we missed very easy opportunities at the rim. Frank missed an easy layup. You texted me, and I actually didn't get to watch the game until later. So that's why I didn't text back, because I was like, I don't want to get into this and figure out what's going on in the game. But Luka missed multiple opportunities right at the rim within 6 feet.
Yeah.
Wood missed multiple opportunities. And I know that those guys, Jared Allen and Evan Mobley are, they're some of the best rim protectors in the league. But I thought a lot of those opportunities were ones that we should make. Yeah, it's something though. To tip a cap to the Cavs, they really know what they're doing. As far as I really wish we had that weak side lob catcher, because what they do offensively, working through the high post with Mobley as a passer, while I didn't think he created shots well for himself, what he was able to give Jared Allen was so just like 3 easy lob dunks. I mean, there was always someone just in the lob catch spot. What's their forward that Stevens was like, he was getting easy buckets. And obviously like they can push pace like we can't, because their guys have so much speed. Garland he's awesome. I really like him.
Yeah, I think he's a great player. I don't like to get too negative. I don't like to get too positive either on this Dallas Mavericks team, especially, with the Maxi injury.
What do you think about like my take on that though? Like we played a bad game. Like it's a
Oh,
good team, and I thought we played bad, but we still fought, right? Like we didn't.
yeah.
We
I thought it
easily.
was a tale of two halves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I want to start off with the second half
Okay.
because I wrote something down that I would like to relay to the people and to you, Alex. I want to see what you think about this. I thought that in the second half, the Mavs played some of their best basketball, especially defensively, of the entire season last night. If not some of their best, like they're just straight up their best defensive effort at times in that second half for the majority of the second half too.
I think we
would
had
say
2 shot clock violations in the fourth quarter that we forced. Gritty defense. There was another possession where we should have had a third, but Mitchell kind of slipped out and he got that layup at the very end of the shot clock. Yeah,
I thought in the third quarter there was 2 or 3 possessions where the Mavs played amazing defense and the Cavs just pulled a crazy shot out of their ass and were able to
the
just
Jared
can
Allen
it.
banker and the
Yep.
Lamar
Yep,
Stevens
the little
banker off the left glass. That was
exactly that one. And then, like you said, the Mitchell shot where he's just kind of falling away and kind of just chunks it up. And wow, it's just in there. That's the kind of night that Donovan Mitchell and the Cavaliers had last night.
Yeah.
With that being said, in the fourth quarter, in the second half, the Mavs tried, but the Cavs were just too much. Mitchell, once again, lights out. This team, out of the half, Kid made the right adjustment, starting Reggie and Seawood. And outside of a couple of mistakes, they played their best defense of the entire season. In order for this team to win basketball games, they have to play that defense from tip-off to the end of the game. There's just no way around it. You can live with a couple of mistakes. Like I said, there was a couple in that second half, rotational mistakes. They said after the game that they're going to look at it, see who and where they were messing up on those, mistakes.
Yeah.
You have to correct those. I think it's going to happen no matter what in a game. It's just human nature. You're going to forget. You're going to say, oh, shoot, I should have rotated over. Luka was left by himself 2-on-1 situation down there at the cup. But in order to win, you have to have that defense. Luka has to be superstar in the third quarter that he was, which in the third quarter in the second half, playing all the way through until, blowout time, right?
Yeah.
He was phenomenal. He has to play like that the entire game. Spencer Dinwiddie has to be your second best player. And that's just a reality. He has to be confident, he has to be aggressive, and he has to be making his shots. Not only that, he has to lead the second unit, not just as an isolation scorer, which we've said multiple times that's his game. We need him to play above himself and not just be an isolation scorer, which I thought at times last night he played outside of himself and was able to do that. Seawood has to be your third best player. Last night, he was probably your second or third best player. It was him and Reggie, I think. Reggie did a lot on defense. Seawood was able to bring that energy, especially on the offensive side of the ball when we were really lagging behind.
I thought he was our second best player last night. I will say, first thing that came to my mind, just like ruminating on that game, was that he's a better shooter than John Collins is. He is. Yeah. I think we had that debate and we were kind of on the fence about it. When he is confident, like the shot from 3 is there. Now I don't need the sidestep corner 3 that he tried to shoot over Jared Allen, but every other in rhythm open 3 that he took, like it looked good. He looked confident. It was the opposite of what I was talking about with Dorian. But I'm with you, man. Like I think, yeah, Spencer has to create for others. Tim, obviously, like he's so streaky, and that's such a problem for us. Like we can't have that streakiness from him.
But that's just who Tim Hardaway Jr. is, though.
I know, and I know he hit that 3-pointer at the end of the half. Obviously, that was an incredible play, the behind the back by Luka. I thought it was a little lucky, honestly.
I thought it was lucky. I didn't think that Tim would be able to catch that ball so low. I mean, at times this team has been, I don't know, their hands haven't been there, at times, especially on Luka passes. And, a lot of the times, unfortunately, they're just not ready to shoot. Tim was ready to shoot in that situation, though.
Your observation of the 2 halves, playing 2 halves of basketball, I think that can be said for a lot of teams, right?
Yeah.
I will say, like, for us, it's about, we can't have an abysmal half, which is we are such a volatile team that it's It's either very, very good or it's very, very bad.
Mm-hmm.
There's not much. Okay, we had an average half. Our average is built from outliers. Like that. That's what the Mavericks are right now. And until we can, like, I mean, Luka, yeah, I was proud that he played that entire third quarter. I mean, he came out with like 10 seconds left or like 4 seconds left or something like that.
And then came right back in.
And then he came right back in for the fourth quarter. And he played, until we were completely out of it at the very end of the game. But it was encouraging to see that he had enough gas in the tank to do that and actually look like himself still in the fourth quarter. He was absolutely not engaged in the first half.
No.
He was sloppy with the ball. And in moments where, like, what makes you average as opposed to detrimental in a half is taking care of the ball, still getting to the free throw line for him. If the shots aren't falling, they aren't falling. But you can't give away offensive rebounds and you can't give the ball away. And I felt like the Cavs really had, I mean, Bickerstaff for sure told his guys, push the pace as much as possible early on.
They're a really well-coached team. They do not take their foot off the gas for a second, and I think that comes from coaching.
For sure.
That's just, I mean, I really wish that the Mavericks were like that because we're obviously not. And I think Kid wants them to be like that. I think he wants more than anything for them to be like that, to bring that energy and effort for all 48 minutes in a game. But for some reason, we just can't, especially in that first half. Just, yeah, like you said, just sloppy with the ball. Guys not making shots. It's really, I think it comes down to when guys aren't making shots, just everybody just gets dejected. And it's so unfortunate because when we're not making shots and still playing with energy and effort on the defensive end, we keep the game close. And that's what you saw in the second half.
Right.
That's like that initial, it was like 16-2 run at the very beginning of the game. Like that ended up being the difference of the game.
I actually thought that, I completely agree with you. I actually thought that the shot quality favored the Mavericks this game. We made it pretty tough. I mean, Donovan Mitchell.
I think so too. Donovan Mitchell was just lights out. There's nothing you can do about that. At the end of the day,
it's a 29 points per game score. Like if you give him any space, he is going to shoot. And at that point, in my mind, that's a good shot, right? What isn't a good shot is end of the shot clock where we were really pressing up on him and he wasn't forcing it because it wouldn't have been a good shot. Like that's a guy that takes what the defense gives him. And obviously he has, he's outstanding when he's slashing to the paint and his ability to kind of like maneuver the ball. You saw him do the kind of the dribble over, right? The power dribble over. He likes that a lot. His wingspan and how easily he can palm the ball, I forget until he's doing it. But for a guy of his height, it's really rare, those traits, to have those traits. I thought we actually mitigated Karis LeVert very well in this game. And I thought defensively, while Mobley got some easy stuff at the rim, he had a tough time, like from 12 to 18 feet. I actually think he gave him a really tough time there. And Jared Allen, of course, like he really only scores from dunks anyway. So
yeah,
that wasn't too much of an issue. But I'm not too discouraged by this loss outside of the fact that, Maxi, which he didn't even play in this game. But that injury it's catastrophic and it's heartbreaking for him because I also just like watching him play.
I do too. I think that he always gives it everything he's got, especially on defense. At times when he is wide open, he's not confident in shooting the ball and you can see it, it just comes and he just bricks it off the backboard, not even touching the rim. And that's unfortunate. But when he is locked in on both ends of the court and is confident in his shot, he is a difference maker. He's one of those, I mean, Harp especially was talking about the guys on the Cavs team that do the dirty work. He was really emphasizing that their bench is full of guys who like to do the dirty work. Maxi is one of those guys. You have to have one of those guys, preferably multiple of those guys, which I think we do have at the end of the day. I think Dwight, preferably off the bench. I think we'd all prefer that. He would be a guy who does the dirty work off the bench. Maxi, obviously one of those guys. Unfortunately, he's going to be out. Josh Green, one of those guys who does the dirty work and is evolving to be an even better player beyond that. Dorian, another guy who does the dirty work. Reggie, another guy who does the dirty. Like we have a team full of those guys. Unfortunately, outside of that, several of those guys are limited in their skill set.
Right.
But we have, once this team is playing to its fullest potential, which I think we saw a lot of that in the second half, we are a playoff team. We are maybe a Western Conference Finals contender. And then if we make additions outside of this team right now, possibly a finals contender. Like I said, I think we need more talent just at the top end of this team. But, we'll see what happens. What do you got? What's on your mind?
I'd like to think that.
We saw it last year. I mean, I know obviously the big difference is JB, right? But we saw it last year.
Yeah, we got to win some games.
We got to win some games.
We definitely have to win some games. I will say, like, I like this Cavs team a lot.
Oh, they're my sleeper out of the East right now.
You know what, though? This has nothing really to do with, I mean, obviously, there's more tape, right? When I watch them play the Mavs, handling a superstar, that's always something that interests me, like how they defend him, how they treated him. Do they double? Do they not? Did they try and let him score and see how many points can Luka do it all by himself, or do they go for the tactic of make Luka pass immediately? But my biggest concern for them is if they have enough depth. And I agree. They gave up a lot in that trade for Donovan Mitchell. And right now, I mean, they run that 5 out there. Lamar Stevens, who they've kind of stumbled into this guy being a starter for them. I think some of it is circumstantial because they felt like he's a bigger body than Okoro. He's taller, so he's better suited to guard Luka. And also Okoro is playing atrocious offense right now. And, the guys off the bench for them, Karis LeVert, who I think in any given year would be a guy that could vie for a 6-man award.
Yes.
Great scorer. But Kevin Love is not the same guy. I think that was pretty apparent. I mean, he didn't have his legs underneath him this entire game. Every shot he was putting up, I was like, oh, thank goodness Kevin's shooting it because I know it's not going in.
Yeah.
As long as we get the defensive rebound, like that's our ball. And then Okoro had that nice dunk, obviously, where he slipped past Christian on a not great closeout. But why are you closing out on Isaac Okoro? Please let him shoot. Like the guy's averaging less than 4 points per game. Like what are we doing? But I don't know. I mean, their depth, it's kind of a question mark for me.
It's a big question mark. I think
especially the depth, the lack of depth paired with the fact that Darius Garland, Jared Allen, and Evan Mobley have not been deep in the playoffs before.
Right. Those are all fair points. I think if they make 1 or 2 moves at the deadline to strengthen that depth, bring more talent off of that bench, I think that they would be a great matchup with the Celtics at the end of the Eastern playoffs. Like if they're in the Eastern Conference finals with the Celtics, I think that's a great matchup. I think it will be a really fun series if we're able to see that happen. Like I said, their team, if Evan Mobley is able to mature throughout the season, which last night I think a lot of his struggles were just him being a young player. He needs to be, more decisive. Like we've said, like Harp says all the time, needs to be more decisive, especially in that mid-range game where he's getting beat up right there and he can't, he's got to make the pass.
When he catches 15 feet from the hoop and this is like the problem that I had a lot of times with KP. It was like Evan Mobley caught the ball in the post with either Spencer, Reggie, or Tim on him.
Yep.
You should score every time.
Every time.
Okay, the one move like Frank has a savvy defensive play where he drew the charge. Okay, that's fine. If I'm a coach, I live with that. That's my big trying to take advantage of a matchup. But I think he's still like, I don't know if it's necessarily like a weight thing. Like he could put on 3 to 5 more pounds, I guess, but I don't think that's what it necessarily is. I think it's just, using your strength, using your size.
Got to be aggressive.
Yeah. And getting to the cup. And
I think that comes with just maturity. Like I said, I think that if he's able to see in this season, I think it's a real possibility that he could figure it out throughout the season, just because I think there's just the depth and then him stepping up away from being a finals contender in my eyes.
Yeah.
They're just
I like that. I mean,
talented.
Like I was praising him for his passing ability. There are very few bigs that can pass like he can. Which shows me like that his basketball IQ is very, very high.
Yes.
And
there's a reason he was projected to possibly be the number 1 overall pick that draft.
And in high school too, he was the number 1 player in his class. It's the same kind of savvy that like a vet like Spence, he has that little bow thing where he draws fouls with it so easily. And look, like when we're in the bonus, it's an immediate 2 free throws for the guy.
Mm-hmm. If only we could make both.
And it's not even like he never makes that shot. He's never going to make a shot. It's not even a shot really. He's just pretending like he's going to drive and put something up, and then it's an automatic foul. So there's some of that savviness that I think in maturity that Evan Mobley will discover. But yeah, man, we've got them again on Saturday. That's
on the second night of a back-to-back. Who all sits for our team?
No one.
No one? You don't think?
No.
Oh, interesting. I think it'll be determined by the minutes that we play on Friday.
It probably will, because we play on Monday. If we were off until Tuesday, maybe it'd be different.
This has just been a brutal stretch for back-to-backs for this Mavs team.
Yeah, for sure. I hope Luka doesn't.
You gotta hope, but
we're at the point here, and this is like a really important juncture in the season where we're 500. We fall back to 500 again after this loss. If we lose to the Blazers on Friday, the Cavs, who were playing at home in Cleveland like that, we don't want to take too many steps under 500.
No, I do think we have a better chance against the Trailblazers on Friday. I mean, just throw the back-to-back out the window, right?
I think they're not a good defensive team.
Yeah, they're not a good defensive team. I think we match up well. I think the difference between their bigs, or I should just say their big in Nurkic versus the Cavs bigs, Nurkic is not a good defensive player in my eyes. I think that we can really exploit that switch, and Luka can, whereas, this past game, dude, I think that in the first quarter, guys were scared to go to the cup, in all honesty. It's what it seemed like. It seemed like they were just scared of the shot blocking. And so while we did get some good looks from three, it was just kind of like, oh, we have to take this shot because we're not going to go get in the cup because we're going to get block shots.
And it's such a luxury for this Cavs team defensively to have Jared Allen, of course, and Evan Mobley, because then Garland and Mitchell and whoever else is out there can run guys off the 3-point line. And then they beat them. They hard close out. They can't shoot the wide open three. Then they get, up to about 16, 17 feet from the paint. And there's just a giant there waiting for them. And they're like, all I can do is either shoot a pull up or a floater. But by the time I make the decision to do that, guess what? Those guys are so long that they're going to contest it, and contest it pretty well too.
Yep. There was fear in our eyes in that first quarter, especially. That's what I think what really got us into a hole, besides you can call it lazy defense in that first half. But yeah, it was just, I think it's a really poor matchup for us.
Yeah.
And Portland on Friday is going to be a much better matchup for us. And I just hope that, Luka comes out aggressive and comes with that energy. I hope Spencer comes out aggressive and with that energy.
Give the home crowd something to cheer about.
Yes.
Give the home crowd something to cheer about.
Absolutely. Get the crowd into it early. Like, don't D around.
I have to ask you, did you hear that one woman? Like, she was the loudest fan I think I've ever heard, and I could hear it from the telecast. She was sitting in the second half. She was on the Cavs side, and she was on the baseline, and she was like she was just to, if you're looking at the basket, she was just to the left of the basket, and her partner, or whoever was there with her, like her friend or whatever it was, the person sitting next to her, she was just nonstop yelling.
I did not catch that at all.
I could hear like the actual words that were coming out of her mouth. Like,
wow.
And it wasn't necessarily like, she wasn't like cussing at them and saying like, fuck you or anything like that. It was just like, I don't know. I was imagining myself like taking free throws in that moment with her like yelling stuff. And I would have just been like, to whoever my teammate was, like, she will not be quiet. Like, I don't know
absolutely
what's going on right now. It was kind of funny,
I didn't catch that at all.
Yeah.
I wish I would have. I wish I would have recorded the game and I could go back and look at it right now, but I can't. How about, I got a question for you in terms of picking up on things. It's been all over Twitter this morning and last night. Luka didn't give the high five to Dwight. I don't think it was because of Dwight Powell. I think he just wasn't looking at Dwight at all. And he was giving the absolute mean eye stare to Mark Cuban. I didn't see his face on the other side, but I think he was staring down Cube and saying, "Hey, you got to do
Yeah, but
something."
I mean, look, he's one of the most emotional players in the NBA.
Absolutely.
Every time,
Probably
every
the
time
most.
that guy steps on the court, no one is safe. Like the refs aren't safe, the other team isn't safe. Honestly, I think a lot of times the other team is safer than our own players are when they're playing with Luka. Because he likes doing the like buddy buddy with the other player when either he gets them or like there's a foul call and he's yelling at the refs and then he looks at the other player on the other
Oh
team and
yeah.
is like like whatever he's saying. I'm imagining he's saying like I wasn't a foul, but like I gotta try or something like
Yeah.
that, right? So I don't take anything of that.
Okay. Well, it's been making the rounds. I
Look, if
think
you lose
that.
games, it's frustrating. Like
Oh,
anyone who's played
absolutely.
pickup knows that. Like
Yeah.
I rerun the pickup games in my head for like the next 2 days, and my girlfriend's like looking at me like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like talking to
Crazy.
myself, being like,
Yeah.
"I should have shot that three when I was in the corner or something like that." And she's like, "What are you doing?"
I'm glad you have the
laughing.
dedication.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we all should. Got to get
Well,
dedicated to something.
yeah, I mean, that's fair. I'm dedicated to this podcast. That's
Love
where
that.
I'd be yelling at myself after like,
Yeah.
oh, I shouldn't have said that. Put that in there. No, that's a bad word to use there. Anyways, is there any other things? Are there any other thoughts that you have from this game? Any thoughts going into this Portland game and possibly for this matchup against the Cavaliers? Although we probably will discuss that prior to the game. Maybe we'll do a double feature. Not really sure yet on that one.
Yeah, I'm just excited to watch Dame
Dame.
and Luka go at it. Dame's playing really good ball right now, and Simons I think is also just one of the most underrated guards in the NBA. I think he easily could have a better year than CJ McCollum has ever had, and when he was paired with Dame, and I think that's saying something because that was one of the best guard duos in the league. The only one that was really second to. We were in that time in the NBA where it was like it's Beal and Wall, right? It's Dame and CJ, and then of course at the top it's Steph and Clay.
Yeah,
So
100%.
I think that's all that to say. Like it's a pretty meaningful statement to come out and say that Anthony Simons is maybe a better running mate than CJ McCollum ever was with Dame. Jeremy Grant obviously is a really good player, kind of like a fringe all-star guy.
Yeah.
He'd be the second best player on our team probably. So
I think you might have a point there. I think a lot of Mavs fans really wanted him on this team, especially at the trade deadline and in the offseason.
For the longest time, right?
Yeah.
Like when he was on Denver, we were like, let's go get that guy. He's kind of the perfect guy. And I think that was even at a time where he hadn't developed into who he is now.
Oh, 100%. No, when he was on Denver, he was kind of the dirty work guy. He was not out there hooping. He was not out there scoring, I should say.
Well,
like he is now.
He showed in that year in Denver, like he could hit the spot up three though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then it was 100%. A
100%.
totally different thing when he went to Detroit.
When you're the first option on that team, right, it really helps you to develop into a confident scorer and to develop the skills to be a pure scorer. Like he may not be the pure scorer. He's obviously not that the top guys are in the league, but he has the skill set and he has the confidence to go out there and get you 20 plus points a night if he needs to.
Two quick things that I was thinking about. One, I love our home crowd, but when it's like early in or late in the first quarter and Luke is having like one of his worst quarters of the season and we're giving him the MVP chance,
let's relax.
Let's wait until the second half when he brings it back and starts playing really, really well.
That's fair. I think that's very fair.
He had like 3 points and like got to the line and he was like he was like 1 for 6 and like he started getting MVP chance and I was like, fire Luka there.
Let's relax.
I would be like, okay.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%.
2, what do you think? This one guy, Aaron Tobin Hest, who has another podcast on the Bleav network called For the Love of the Game.
Okay.
Basketball guy, knows a lot about the NBA and we should get him on at some point. But he, for the last like year and a half, just texts me like, hey man, Luka, he's like LeBron from the Cavs, just can't work, too heliocentric. Is he like, what's he going to do? And it's like his kind of argument is that like Luka is hurting his team by the way that he plays. So what do you think about that?
I hate people like that. I have to be honest. I'm sure he's a great guy. I'm sure
And I'm
he's
sure it's
very
a more
knowledgeable.
nuanced, it's more of a nuanced, right? Like argument than that. It's not just that, but that's kind of the
Correct.
basis of it.
I think that you have to watch this team night in and night out to truly understand what Luka does for his teammates.
Right.
He, I mean, let's be, LeBron is LeBron. He is just, especially when he was with the Cavs early on, dude was just, just a monster, athletic monster, scoring every which way.
So let me say the LeBron Luka thing. So I was talking to another friend about this.
Okay.
And I said, Luka is in their, like in the current sample size of what we've been able to watch of Luka in his career. And at the same time, if we compare that to LeBron's paralleled career before he got to the Heat, right? We're basically just looking at Cavs LeBron. Luka is a better scorer, a more diverse scorer. But
Correct.
LeBron had more ease in scoring. He was able to get buckets easier than Luka as far as
because he was an athletic freak and he still is.
Exactly. So I think, there were times where in the same way that like John Morant and Zion Williamson don't have to do a lot to score 20 points.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times they can just either jump over a guy or run past a guy. Right.
Whereas Luka is picking you apart with his brain. It's not, he's not out
because
here.
he has to.
Yeah. Oh, 100. It's 100% because he has to. He's so good at basketball, right? There's a reason this kid won MVP at 16 while he was with Real Madrid. To say that it's heliocentric and that Luka does too much and it hurts his teammates is just a silly take to me because of the fact that he gets his teammates wide open shots night in and night out. And it's completely up to his teammates if they make the shot or not. That is, if he were to have, I don't know what personnel package it would have to be, but in the perfect world, he's getting 14 assists a night. And that's just the reality of the situation because he is capable of doing that. And if he has the right,
replace him with Jason Tatum on the Celtics.
If we replace Luka with Jason Tatum on this Dallas Mavericks team,
not talking about like both, that the team's going to be that much better or anything, or that it's a better fit. Just the fact that like how many assists per game he would have. He would
have probably 15 assists a game, and the Mavericks would be a lottery team. That is a fact. I love Jason Tatum as a player. I think if you put him on this team, we are a top 10. We're picking in the top 10. That's just how it is. He's really good. Let me reiterate that. He is really good.
He's definitely a better two-way player than Luka is.
Better two-way player.
Although Luka's defense has been really good of late.
Been really good. And it's been amazing to see him evolve into, hey, guys can get around him sometimes, a lot of the time, just because he's a slow guy. But he's using his brain on defense and staying engaged to get into the passing lanes, to come over and get that weak side block. Jason Tatum just is not the facilitator that Luka is, and that's what this Mavs team needs. That's just the end of the day. You need a guy who can not only go get 40 points, but can also get guys open constantly and be able to pass the ball out.
What I told my buddy Aaron is that if Luka was playing with Jaylen Brown, his usage rate, like first off, Tatum and Brown both have their usage rate is over 30 right now. Luka's obviously is like league high. It's probably like 39 or 41 or something crazy like that.
Yeah. It's like him, Giannis, and Ja, I want to say, is like the top 3 in usage.
That sounds right. But it would go down if he had Jaylen Brown on his team.
Of course, yeah. I think the perfect second superstar to Luka is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I think that's.
I mean, now you're
that
talking
would be the
about,
dream scenario.
Now you're talking about 2 top 10 players on the same team.
Well, hey, if that's what it takes. Not that we can go get him, not that we have the assets to go get him, but in a dream scenario, in a perfect world, I think
there's no other team that has 2 top 10 players on their team.
Well, no, not now.
Let's see like later in the season if LeBron starts turning it up a little bit here, because Anthony Davis is playing incredible basketball right now.
Yeah, lights out. Russ, even off the bench, is playing pretty good. But
look what you have to do, like to the Lakers. Look at the rest of their roster. You put 2 top 10 guys together, you can only do so much with the rest of your roster. So, yeah, there's no other team, right?
I mean,
the Clippers are the closest. If Kawhi if he's top 10, PG's probably top 15.
Yeah.
I would say. And that's obviously, has to do with health because Kawhi's working his way back and he's actually looked pretty good the last couple of games, but he's still got a long way to go. All right, man.
It's time to wrap it up. I think I don't have any more closing thoughts. It's just don't get too down about this team. I think I keep saying this, but you just can't be overreactionary, especially with a Mavs team that's so up and down, up and down. It's not good for your mental health.
Let's start getting really reactionary, like in 10 days. We play the Lakers on Christmas. Then
I would even say mid-January.
Then we can start like really unraveling.
There will come a time. Absolutely. I don't know when I think it's more of a feel than it is, a set date. Just personally. But yeah, just at this moment, it's, we're recording this on December 15th. Like just everybody just relax. We're in an unfortunate spot, but I think we can only really go up from here at this juncture.
The Baudelaire children always figure something out.
They'll figure it out.
Do you know?
I don't know that actually.
Series of unfortunate events, man.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Never read those books.
Wow.
And I know it's a series, right? On Netflix.
Yeah. They made it into a movie with Jim Carrey. Then they made it into a series on Netflix with Neil Patrick Harris.
By the way, this is totally unrelated. Can we please stop with the adaptations of video games? Like the latest one being God of War. Just let God of War be God of War. It's an amazing game.
I mean, that video game is a movie in it of itself.
Absolutely. That is the only game. I've been playing video games for a very long time. That is the only game I've played straight through all the way till the end and probably stayed up. I started playing like noon on a Saturday and finished playing 8 a.m. on a Sunday. It was that good.
You played it all the way through?
All the way through.
In one sitting?
Yep. I was that blown away by that game. And this new Amazon Prime series that they've just ordered is only going to be worse. It can't get better than that.
Here we go then. So what the Mavs need is they need a commitment. They need to commit on the defensive side of the ball like Wyatt committed to playing God of War.
Yep, absolutely.
It's as simple as that.
I'm telling you, if you bring that kind of effort into every single game that you play, you're going to be in it until the very end. And with Luka Doncic, you're probably going to win the game. That's just how it works. In the modern day NBA, if you have the superstar who's ready to kick ass and take names, you're going to win the game, especially if you're playing your asses off on the defensive end of the floor. That's all I got. I mean, that's all I've got for this episode of the Bleav in Mavs podcast, I think.
All right. Who's Atreus between the two of us?
Who's Atreus?
You're the younger, yeah. So you get.
It's probably me. It's probably me.
Yeah.
Although his decision making, I mean, he's way too rash for it to be me. I think probably 5 years ago, it's a much more easy comp. But Atreus in God of War is such a God. He's just ready to stab guys.
Wait, my spoiler is that who is he?
Am I allowed? I guess it's been long enough, right? That you just have to
he's Loki
at this point. Yeah, he's Loki. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. Interesting. I always thought that was interesting.
I'm in the middle of Ragnarok. I haven't finished playing it yet, but I think I'm right in the middle of the game. But I've been taking a few weeks off to play more COD. And
the new one.
I think yeah.
MW2.
It's pretty cancerous in terms of gameplay right now, especially because my buddies just want to play Shoot House 2. And Shoot House 2 is probably the worst thing on this planet. People just ADS down lanes. It's really brain dead gameplay.
I don't know what that means, but it sounds complicated.
They're just aiming down sights,
down sights.
Yeah.
Like we're
right
camping.
Down to 2 lanes.
They're camping.
Yep. They're camping ADS, just brain dead gameplay. If you're like that playing Shoot House 2, you should go touch grass, I should say. Although I shouldn't be the one saying that because I probably need to touch some grass at some point soon.
Yeah. I feel like I'm like watching I need to go watch some Cartoon Network from like 15 years ago when they they would cut to commercial and it would be like, go outside and play. Like, go outside and play. Don't forget to
You said that you were going to start the Clone Wars. That's what you said. You said that was your next animated. That was like 15 years ago. It started in 2008.
Yeah, I just finished White Lotus. So we'll see what I'm moving on to next. I'm watching this 1899 on Netflix. It's about the Bermuda
is awesome.
Triangle. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I finished it all the way through.
It is about the Bermuda Triangle, isn't it? Loosely,
I
like
guess.
loosely. I know it's like I've watched
Dude,
the first 3 episodes. So
have
I
you
know
seen
it's
Dark
not.
at all?
Yeah, it's the same director and writer and
Yes.
the same main
Yeah,
actor.
it's got the same like twistiness at the end. It's like
sure.
about the Bermuda Triangle, but at the end, it's not even close.
Yeah, I don't want to like spoil anything for anyone.
I'm not.
That's why I'm saying like very loosely to anyone out there who is still
That's fair.
listening. It's about the Bermuda Triangle.
It's crazy. I
You
kind
do
of
have
picked
to
up
you have
on
to
what
like
it was.
subtitles though, because there's a bunch of different people from a lot of different places who are speaking different languages.
100%. Yeah.
So
You absolutely have to turn on subtitles. And I will say, I'm not trying to, brag on myself, but at like episode 2 and 3, I kind of figured out the main overarching twist. But then they added a twist at the end of it too that I was not expecting at all. So yeah, give it a shot. If you're still listening, give that show a shot. It's really
cool.
Ooh. Yeah. I think
Why
that's
I can't
gonna
even
do it.
talk right now anymore.
I
He's
can't.
like about
Dude, I've got the burps right now. It's so unfortunate. I'm trying to wrap this up and I can't even get the words out. I'm trying to give my roses to 1899 too. What a
Roses
great show.
to 1899. Hopefully roses to the Mavs on Friday and then on Saturday. We'll recap those games at some point. But thanks everybody for tuning in to Bleav in Mavs. Wyatt Huskins, Alex Tassopoulos. We will catch you next time.
Peace.